All right, man. Welcome to the Black Spinner Circle vidcast. I'm Al Horta. How are you guys? I got my co-host Andy below me. What's up, brother?
How's it going, man? I'm very excited to do this. I just came back from vacation like maybe 5 hours ago. I just got back from Arizona, so I'm pretty excited. I'm finally got home. I've been gone for 7 days, so it felt great to be home and come back into this room and do this podcast with you guys. So I'm very excited. Unfortunately, we lost Paul Diano in the beginning of the week on Monday, so that's why we're doing this today
Yeah.
is to honor what he gave to hard rock and heavy metal. So I'm
Yeah,
very
we're
excited to do this tonight.
we're live on Facebook. We're live on the Black Spinner Circle YouTube channel and the Be Cool to Be Podcast Out channel. We got our usual guest with us, Joseph Staub. What's up, Joe?
Evening, folks. Cheers to Paul Diano.
I could say that too, man. I'm drinking a little brandy tonight. I'm almost done already, actually.
I got Jack and Coke for Paul.
Yeah.
I got a Diet Coke from Chick-fil-A.
And I got to introduce our special guest tonight. I always call his show and I go, "Scream for me, Rock Tales." We got Brendan Smith from the Rock Tales show with Ahmed Zappa, Brendan Smith, and Richard Sheltinga. Brando, man, glad to have you on tonight. It's awesome. Thanks for coming on.
Well, I'm honored to be here, especially on this solemn occasion as we celebrate the life of Mr. Paul Diano. Taken too soon, 66 years old.
That's young, man.
That's young. He'd been in ill health for a while, but he was still out there fucking carrying the torch of the music that he's such a huge part of. There was a great statement released by the band the other day that was just very thoughtful. Bruce gave honor to him the other night as well, I think in Minneapolis. So, fans love Paul Diano. Fans love these first two records. So I am so psyched to talk to you guys tonight about what we're going to talk about.
Yeah. When when Paul passed away, I mean, I love the first two albums, man. My story is, I came into Maiden on Number of the Beast. My older brother had the cassette, and to this day, it's still actually my favorite Maiden release. So I didn't discover Paul until a little bit, like a couple years later. I mean, when my older brother had the Maiden cassette, it was pretty new, so it was probably 82, 83 that I discovered Maiden. So I was only like 11 years old, and just, my brother had it in the tape case. I've taken the case out and seen the cover as a kid, it's like, wow, whoa, but then it wasn't until later on, I was getting the other releases with Bruce, but then I had a friend of mine in high school. He was like, check out the first two albums, man. There's albums before Number of Beasts is with a different singer though. So I went back. The first thing I got actually that I found was the Sanctuary. It was a single, like an EP. So it had like 4 songs on it. And it had what did it have on it? It had Sanctuary Drifter Live. It had I Got the Fire, a Montrose cover on there. And it had one more song and it's escaping me right now. But it might have been Running Free, maybe. I don't remember.
Was that the one that had Cross-Eyed Mary on it?
No, it didn't have that. It didn't have that cover on there.
Cross-Eyed Mary is on the Trooper.
Yeah, it's a Bruce. That was a Bruce cover.
Yeah, that was a Bruce one. So that was like the first Paul Diano release I got. That was the thing I found. Then I got Killers first, and then I got the first album. Admittedly, I prefer Killers over the first album, but by a hair. I'm a production guy. I love production, and Martin Birch came in. Well, I'll give you notes on these albums. So first album, Iron Man, came out in 1980, produced by Will Malone, Paul Diano, Steve Harris, Dennis Stratton on guitar, Dave Murray, and Clyde Burr. The second album, Killers, in 81, Dennis Stratton would leave and Adrian Smith would come in. So there was a lineup change right off the bat. So, and I prefer Killers. So anyway, Brando, how did you come into Maiden?
Well, I came into Maiden. I was born in Pittsburgh, but we moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico in 1980. and Albuquerque, New Mexico is Metal City.
Yeah.
And our local rock radio stations played metal. So you would hear Billy Joel, you would hear Led Zeppelin, you would hear the Beatles, then you would hear Priest, AC/DC, Solo Ozzy, and Maiden. And Albuquerque always loved Maiden. And there was a heavy metal record store in Albuquerque at that time. It was called Merlin's. And we would go to Merlin's in the early 80s. And basically, I was in like 7th, 8th, 9th grade. And you would buy records just based on the cover. So the cover of Killers, I think, is one of the best rock album covers of all time, period. I don't care what band, what genre we're talking about. Like, it is just absolutely the best. So I remember when that came out and everyone was like, what the fuck? Because the first album, like, you really had to be dialed in America to know about that first album. But when Killers came out, it was such a big deal. And I also remember in the very, very early days of MTV, they would play the live video from Rothschild when Maiden played at the Rainbow Theater. And they chopped that up. And USA Network on Night Flight would play that too. So I just remember seeing that video. And Rothschild at the time was like, that was the edge. Like, that was the fucking hardest, coolest thing that was out, and that was it for me. And then, of course, Number of the Beast is going to come not too far after that. But, Eddie just hooked me in almost from the get-go. So that's my story.
Yeah. I meant to say before, I know you're a huge Maiden fan. So when Paul passed and Andy was away on vacation, so we weren't gonna do a show until next week. And then I pitched the idea to Andy. He's like, dude, let's just do a Thursday. When I get back on vacation on Thursday, we'll do it Thursday night. That's why I asked you, and I wanted you to come on. I know you're a big Maiden fan. You always have Maiden news on Rock Tales. Anyway, Rock Tales Friday nights live at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Check that out. It's always live on YouTube. Great show. Brendan always knows I call in and, we shoot the shit and all that, so anyway, but glad to have you on. Joe, what's your story, bro?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, Maiden was a band that you hear certain songs on the radio. I mean, mainly the Bruce stuff, Run to the Hills. Every now and then you'll hear like the title track for Number of the Beast or the Trooper or that kind of stuff on the radio. But when I really, in my like high school years, started really digging into like heavier music, Maiden was one of the first bands that I really jumped into. And it's funny considering that they're one of the bands that has not really grown much for me as far as like my love for them. Unfortunately, these albums, definitely, I adore these albums, but it's funny that they were one of the first bands that I really got into because I find them to be one of the more accessible metal bands for somebody that's really kind of getting into heavier music. Mm-hmm. And so I really kind of dove deep into Maiden, and these albums especially really connected with me. And I've always been a huge fan specifically of Paul's voice on these albums, but also musically, these albums are a little different from where they'd kind of go following Paul's departure. They'd kind of settle into that. They'd have a little bit of a transition album with Number of the Beast, and then from Peace of Mind on, they'd kind of settle into the Maiden sound almost. And I really think that there's so much like experimentation on these albums, and just they're really all over the place as far as a sound goes. And I love that about these albums. And so I'm really excited to talk about these albums specifically. But Maiden was one of those bands that really was one of the bands that got me into heavier music. And so I'm really excited to be coming back and talking about them now.
Cool. Andy, how about you, bro?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was born in 1974. So when I was about 8 or 9, we would have like campouts at each other's backyards and tents and stuff. So what we would do is that we'd stay up all night, of course, but we would take a radio. We all take cassettes. And one of our friends, he might have been about 2 or 3 years older than us, and he brought over Number of the Beast on cassette, and we heard it. and it kind of freaked us out, because we're like 10 or 11 listening to this, and the Vincent Price sound-alike voice going into Number of the Beast freaked us out. But ever since then, I've been a Maiden fan. These two albums here that we're going to talk about are in my top 4 of Iron Maiden albums. They are my top 4. The Beast will always be my favorite. They're a fantastic band. One of my favorite heavy metal bands, and are in my personal top 20 bands of all time. So I'm very excited to talk about this. Breaking down these albums, and also it's a perfect time to also commemorate Paul's influence on this band. And next week on the BS sessions with Mark and Jerry, we're going to have on Tuesday. I think we're going to talk about underrated people and bands, and I put Clive Burr on my list.
Oh yeah,
Clive Burr was so fantastic on these 3 albums, especially these 2 albums. That really pushed this Maiden sound, the first 3 albums. And Nico McBain's great, but I think they lost a little bit of that edge, like Joseph was saying, because of the exit of Clive Burr. I mean, it's all over these 2 albums.
Yeah,
his drumming technique.
Yeah,
and everybody else follows suit. So, we're excited about talking about this.
All right, we have a little segment called "What's Spinning." We just run through real quick what we've been listening to. I want to point out. And thank you, Brendan, because I won this on the show. I got the Zappa release. I answered some trivia and I got it right on the first try. And I think Brendan was pretty impressed actually. So I got the package great, and he actually was cool, man. He threw in Valley Girl book, like a coloring book, which is really cool.
Don't tell anybody.
Some Frank Zappa stickers and buttons, which are really cool. So, Brendan, thank you so much, man. The package.
You're welcome.
Came and I just bought tickets for King Diamond to come this coming Saturday. So I've been jamming a little Merciful Fate. So a little Melissa there. Yeah, King Diamond with Overkill and Night Demon opening up. So that's gonna be a great show.
A hell of a bill.
Yeah, dude. So this Saturday, man, I only got tickets for like $11, dude. So it's gonna be awesome. Anyway, Brendan, do you have anything that you've been listening to this past week? Or?
I just saw Maiden in Denver a couple
So
nights
it's been
ago.
Maiden overload for you.
And I've been a Maiden overload, and a lot of Senjutsu. I've been listening to Senjutsu.
Okay.
And Maiden played in LA at the Forum at the old school Great Western Forum, which they now call the Kia Forum, which is a great venue for concerts. So I've had a lot of Maiden in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I just got back from Denver. And, it's the Future Past tour, and they're kicking butt. And it was just a great show. And one of the best Big Eddies of all time, when they play Iron Maiden at the end of the show and they blow up the Big Eddie. It's one of the best Big Eddies they've ever done.
It's not coming down here to Florida, unfortunately, man. I'm kind of bummed. But hopefully the tour that they're going to do next year, will come through here. So
2026 next year will be like all of Europe and the whole deal, and then 2026 they'll be back for the 50th anniversary tour. Okay, they'll definitely. I mean, they love fucking Florida.
Yeah. All right, Joe, man, what do you got, man?
I got a couple quick things here. This past Saturday, I got to see Queensryche for the second time this year on the Origins tour, doing these 2 amazing albums in their entirety, including The Prophecy, the bonus track off of the EP.
Nice.
Just an amazing show. Small venue. It was at a casino. So it was a small venue. My friend and I were going nuts in the back of the room, just jamming out. And we were up, the way they had the room set up, it was floor seats and then some bleachers at the back of the room. And so my friend and I were kind of standing up in the bleachers and with a couple other people that we didn't know, but we were all jamming out. And I think Todd kind of saw us in the back of the room just going nuts. And he kept pointing back to us during the show. So unfortunately, not a lot of people were standing during the show. It was one of those kind of crowds. A lot of people sitting, and you don't sit when Queen of the Reich's playing. So, but it was a great show. So I'm really excited to see these 2 albums for the second time this year. If they're coming around, definitely recommend seeing it. They put on a hell of a show with the current lineup. But I've also been listening to, I just got this in the mail recently. I've been on a huge modern prog kick. So I got Steven Wilson's The Raven That Refused to Sing.
Yeah.
Just this has always been one of my favorite albums. I just absolutely adore this album. It's basically if somebody in 2013 wrote a prog album that came out in 1973. It's phenomenal. It has that kind of rich Peter Gabriel era Genesis kind of texture to it, and it just has amazing instrumentation and musicianship on this album. I mean, Steven Wilson always has a hell of a lineup of musicians with him, and just it's a great album. And if I haven't sold you enough on it, Alan Parsons engineered this album.
Oh, cool.
So
I do have that. Yeah.
The same man that engineered Dark Side of the Moon engineered this album.
Well, Steven Wilson is the guy, man. I mean, he's he's been amazing. The prog guy, like, the past probably 20 years, man. His solo albums are great. I just saw Porcupine Tree, like a year and a half ago. Again, that was probably my third time I saw them. So it was great, man. But is that what you got, man?
Yep.
All right, cool. Andy, what do you got, bro?
Well, just like I said, I just got back from vacation. Every time I go on vacation, I go to their local record store. That's my souvenir from my vacations. So I went to this place, and I found this album here without the cover, though, because I like to go into bins and really dig deep. And I dig deep, and I found this right here. This is fantastic. Albert King's Born Under a Bad Sign.
Oh, okay.
For $3. And it's beautiful. I mean, it's like pristine care. And then I kept on looking around, and I'm a big Neil Young fan, as you all know. And I found this EP called El Dorado, which was only released in Japan and Australia when it first came out in '88. But then in 2018, I believe, he released it in America on vinyl. So I finally got a copy of it. So got a couple others, but I'll talk about those another time. I'm pretty sure no one wants to hear about my 2 Live Crew find. So
all right, man. So we're gonna get to the topic at hand. We're gonna go track by track. And sorry about the last minute goof up here. I said that we were gonna do like the North American releases, so which added an extra track on each release. And for some reason, for the Killers one, I looked at the remastered version, not the original version. So it screwed up. I think Twilight Zone and was it Purgatory that got switched? I think it was like those two.
I think Twilight Zone was like 2 tracks later or earlier or something like that.
Supposed to be earlier.
Yeah,
so it was like supposed to be like 2 tracks earlier.
Yeah. So I messaged all you guys, and you guys were cool with me switching at the last minute. So I tend to do these, and Andy knows this, and I think Joe knows this. I tend to do these track by tracks kind of off the cuff. I don't really put a lot of thought into it. I just go by gut. Like I know a lot of people like they'll list the track list and they'll mull over. Like I've heard these albums a lot. So
yeah, I'm all over.
But admittedly, I did, because Paul passed, I did throw on the 2 albums and listen to them again to refresh my mind and memory. So I kind of did a little bit of studying this time. So, I tend to be a little more spontaneous on these track by tracks. I just go by the gut. But this time I put a little thought into it. So anyway, so the track listings for Iron Maiden, and Iron Maiden at the end, I'll get to it. So Iron Maiden 1980, it's going to be Prowler, Remember Tomorrow, Running Free, Phantom of the Opera, Transylvania, Strange World, Sanctuary, Charlotte the Harlot, Iron Maiden, and to make it 10 track, I put a B-side, Burning Ambition, on the end, okay? Which I think was the B-side to, I think Sanctuary might have been. Running Free. I think it was Running Free, actually. So it was a B-side for Running Free. Killers, I combined Ides of March and Rat Child, because Ides of March is just a instrumental. It kind of sets up Rat Child anyway. So we made that one track 1. Ides of March and Rat Child. Number 2, Murders in the Rue Morgue, Another Life, Genghis Khan, Innocent Exile, Killers, The Twilight Zone, Prodigal Son, Purgatory, and Drifter. So it makes it an even 10 tracks versus 10 tracks. We go track 1, track 2 against each other, whatever. So actually, Brendan, you're going to start it off. It's going to be Prowler from the first Maiden album versus Ides of March, Rat Child, What is your choice?
Well, I mean, look, it's almost too on the nose to say Ides of March and Wrathchild, but I mean that for me that was the beginning. The first time I heard Rothschild, I mean, it's the perfect blend of sort of punk rock and metal. What they were steeped in, and what the tradition they were coming out of. I mean, Rothschild is just. I wish they played it more live now.
Yeah.
So it's for me, it's almost unbeatable. I love Prowler, amazing song. I mean, this is just such a hard, it's such a hard.
Dude, because both albums are just so freaking amazing, man. It's just it's tough.
Well, I think you said it before. Like, Killers is for sure in my top 3 Maiden records, for sure. But track by track, right out the gate, Rothschild, got to go with that.
Andy, going to keep track of this?
I'm writing everything down.
Awesome. All right, Joe, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I mean, it's really 2 kind of different ways to open an album, because Prowler comes out right kind of fast and furious with the riff at the beginning and just right into it. And then you have Ides of March and Wrathchild, which you kind of have that kind of like epic, almost kind of, it reminds me a little bit of like something like maybe like even like Queen almost, the kind of Ides of March intro into a very punky, like you said, kind of punk meets metal with Wrathchild with the bass, right into it. And agreeing with you here, it feels kind of like a kind of like just kind of throwing it up, but I have to go with Wrathchild and Ides of March. And I agree. I wish they played this more live. I definitely think this is one we'll see on the tour next year, more than likely.
Yeah, I was
wondering. One that you can still see Bruce singing. I can see it.
I've been wondering now, like with the passing of Paul, if they're going to maybe add a few more songs into the list, for the 2026 tour, which would be very welcome for me. So
I could definitely see it like this. Probably them bringing Transylvania back as kind of a crowd fun instrumental kind of thing, and a couple of the other stuff. Now that Bruce's voice is kind of still better than it was years ago when they were still doing a lot of these songs, I think I can see a lot of this stuff getting pulled out.
Cool. All right, Andy, man, your pick.
Yeah. I was going to go with Prowler, but then when we added the Ides of March and Wrathchild as a opener with both tracks together, I mean, that was just the perfect way to start this show. Was with those 2 tracks together, Ides of March and Wrathchild. So that's what I'm going to go with. So I'm going to go with Killers on this one.
And I'm going to make it a clean sweep, man. For me, Ides of March into Wrathchild. I love Prowler, man. I mean, dude, like Joe said, boom, right out of the gate. But like, the Ides of March, man, into like Wrathchild. I mean, and I'm with you, Brendan, man. I remember seeing that video for Wrathchild, and Paul just commanded that fucking song, dude. I love the stage presence, man. He just had that gruff kind of streetwise. He was the punk element. Well, man, musically too, man. It had the punk element to it. He was just perfect for those songs on the first 2 albums. So I'm gonna go with Ides of March into Wrathchild. So that's track 1, clean sweep.
Clean sweep, yeah.
All right, man. Track 2, Remember Tomorrow versus Murders in the Rue Morgue. Brendan, go ahead.
Okay, Murders in the Rue Morgue is one of my top 5 Maiden songs, and it always has been, because you can they just set the tone for this incredible story, and you could just see Paul Diano running through some shitty street in London or in Paris or wherever the fuck they are. I think they're in France, but I just love this song. Nothing's gonna beat it. For me.
Okay. So Murders in the Rue Morgue for Brendan. Joe.
This is probably the toughest battle of the entire album for me. I mean, both of these songs are probably in my top 5 Iron Maiden songs. Just Murders in the Rue Morgue is so heavy and just intricate, and the instrumentation, the kind of in the pocket Clive Burr on this song is nuts. And Steve Harris, this is when Steve Harris was doing some insane runs on some of these songs. During the chorus of Murders in the Rue Morgue, Steve Harris is all over the place. It's amazing. That being said, Remember Tomorrow is my all-time favorite Iron Maiden song.
Oh, yeah.
So, I can't. Paul Di'Anno's voice on that song is just nuts. When people say, oh, well, Paul Di'Anno wasn't, didn't have a wide range. Paul Di'Anno was just this gruff punk singer. Exactly. Bullshit. Listen to him screaming his ass off on Remember Tomorrow. He has that same operatic range, but just in a more gruff way, and I love that about his voice. And just Remember Tomorrow is a perfect encapsulation of that. The instrumentation is amazing. The solos are great. It's a long song, but there's not a lot of lyrics, and it's just some of the riffs on that song are just amazing. So I'm gonna have to go with Remember Tomorrow.
All right, man. Andy.
Yeah, when I was I don't know if I'm gonna give this away for somebody else, but when I would listen to the Iron Maiden album, this track was just okay until Al started to mention Remember Tomorrow more and more on several different podcasts. So I sat down and then I heard it some more. And Paul Di'Anno's voice is so different on this compared to everything else that he sang or what others think that he always sounds like. And Joe was completely right. The solos on here are so good. It goes up and down for a ballad. It's a really good heavy metal solos going on there. And I always like Murders on the Rue Morgue, but I'm going to have to give it to Remember Tomorrow just because it's so different with Paul's voice in this one. That's what makes it for me on this track is his voice because it's completely different. So I'm going to go with that.
All right, man. Well, now both songs, they start off like mellow and moody, and there's similarities between the two actually, and then goes off and the Remember Tomorrow. I mean, yeah, like Joe says, man, this is a hard one, hard as hell, man. But I have always loved Murders in the Rue Morgue. I've always just the I don't know, man, the way like Paul sings along with the riffs, dude. Like I don't know, it just like punches you, man. Like Murders in a Rue Morgue, like just the way he sings it, dude. I love it, and I've always loved this song. I mean, a little more than Remember Tomorrow, but Remember Tomorrow is fucking amazing, dude. But I'm gonna give the edge to Murders in a Rue Morgue, so there's gonna be a tie this one.
A tie, yeah.
Yeah, 2-2, man. All right, so now we're gonna go to track 3, Running Free versus Another Life. Brendan, take it away.
It's going to be a vanilla pick for me, Running Free. I feel like it's a Maiden anthem. They will definitely do this on the 50th anniversary tour. I wish they did this more. When you're on that, you've started off listening to the record with a bong hit, and then you get to this one and you take another bong hit and you're like, yes. And it's got that sing-songy, that chanting feeling.
Yeah.
And also early MTV also played this live video too. Like the very early days of MTV when they had no videos. This was another one that they played. So it's a special song for me because it got me hooked into Maiden back then.
Yes. Cool, man. Joe.
See, I'll go with the non-vanilla pick. I like Running Free. It's never been one of my favorite songs. I actually get kind of bored with it. It's a great song, but it's just it's one of those that I've heard too many times. I'm not a huge fan of that. It's one they did live a lot. I knew this song from like the Live After Death album. I've never been. I don't need to hear it again. I'll say Another Life is just such an underrated track on this album, and that's what I think Killers really is there's a lot of these tracks where it's like nobody really talks about it outside of like the diehard Maiden fans. There's a couple other songs coming up on this album that are the same way, but Another Life is one of those songs where it's just like, this is just amazing music that nobody really talks about when they talk about, oh, Number of the Beast, oh, Power Slave, all this. And those are great albums as well. But there's something about this that they never quite did again. And I think that that's something that this song really does well. So I'm going to have to give it to Another Life.
Okay. Andy.
Man, I went back and forth on this one. I really did. I checkmarked one, and I would hear it again. I'll scratch it off, checkmark the other one, and scratch it off, and I went back to my original one, which is Running Free. Running Free is an Iron Maiden anthem. It should be up there with Highway to Hell, with I'm 18. It should be up there with those songs. So that's why I like it so much, was because it should be up there, but it's not, because it's an Iron Maiden anthem. And to go back to what Another Life, like Joe was saying, that was such a killer song. It really is. You can really hear their stretching out of their solos and so on. But I'm going to go with Running Free because that's a song that I fell in love with before, and that's one of my favorite songs by Iron Maiden. I'm going to stick to my guns on that one. So Running Free for me.
For me, shit, man. Both of these songs have the great Clive Burr intros, man. Clive Burr is the fucking man, and he's my favorite Maiden drummer. No disrespect to Nico, but yeah, like Andy was saying earlier, man, when Clive had this sort of like swing to him, man. He had this like just this groove to him, man. Like this, he had like that punkish kind of, but like still was intricate. When you listen to him, there's those little intricacies, man. I just liked his drumming a bit better, man. I've dabbled in drums. I'm more of a guitar player, but I have played drums in bands. So I remember, a band that I was in, we would play like Running Free, and I tell you, man, that intro, like it seems easy, but you gotta have a lot of energy to play it, dude. But that first album has that nasty, raw, punkish sound to it, man. Whereas Killers, Martin Birch comes into the mix, and it still has like that nice rawness to it, but with a little more production value. But for me, like Running Free, man, that gritty, raw, punkish sound, like of the album suits it, and I got to go with that one because I love that song so much. So I'm gonna pick Running Free. So we're gonna go to number 4. This is gonna be, probably kind of easy actually, but Phantom of the Opera versus Genghis Khan. Go ahead, Brendan.
I think I have a Phantom of the Opera Eddie figure around here somewhere. I should have thought about that before I started this, but
I love that single cover with the cape and the big organ and stuff. Oh, it's iconic.
One of the best ones. And this is a song that they've actually done, not the last tour, but the tour before that. Probably. I love Phantom. I mean, again, start to finish, Killers is my favorite, one of my favorite Maiden records, but here's one where the first album wins out.
There you go, man. Joe.
Yeah. I mean, it's Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
It's probably my second favorite Iron Maiden song of all time. I mean, the lyrics, the riff, the insane Clive Burr drumming on this, Steve Harris, it's amazing. And I love it's another song kind of like Murders in the Rue Morgue, where Paul's vocal line is the bass line in the riff. I
love it.
Oh yeah.
And it's just such an amazing song, and the it's just so epic. It's like really one of the first like foretellers of what they would do later in their career with those kind of like epic, like Power Slave, those kind of songs.
Yeah.
And it's just such an amazing track and one of my favorites. The lyrics, I think that's a big difference for me between the early albums and then what Bruce era Maiden lyrics were. I think that this had, Phantom of the Opera, it's kind of a fantasy thing, but it's not Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, where it's like this like really like out there kind of thing, where an old 19th century poem and this really kind of like out there kind of lyrics are talking about like Back to the Village, Flash of the Blade, those kind of songs. It's a lot more like street savvy lyrics, stuff like Running Free, stuff like Prowler. It's a lot more like punk lyrics, and I think they got away from that a little bit in the Bruce years. They got a little bit more kind of Dio-esque in their lyrics. I would say they kick a lot of inspiration.
More fantasy, yeah.
fantasy Dio kind of lyrics. And just another reason that I just think these two albums are just so amazing, where they have those elements to them, but they still have that kind of like, it's dirtier. It's fantasy. It has some fantastical elements to it, but it's like a dirty, dark fantasy.
Very well said, man. Joe always coming through with the fucking articulations, man. All right, there you go. Andy, go ahead, brother.
Phantom of the Opera is my favorite song on both albums combined. It just is. Phantom of the Opera it sticks out so much on this album. It's an amazing track. The storytelling again is great, but also when they get to the breakdown, the backing vocals again, that's something that Maiden doesn't do that often, and that they injected it 3/4 down the track. So it's a fantastic song. They do it wonderful as well on Live After Death, which is one of my favorite live albums of all time. So I'm gonna stick with Phantom of the Opera on this one.
It's got to be a clean sweep. It's Phantom for me, man. You know? Genghis Khan's a cool instrumental, but going up against Phantom, I mean the epicness right off the bat in the first album of that track. Yeah, like Joe says, it's almost already a foreshadowing of like what was to come when Bruce would come in. But yeah, again, man, with Paul's vocals, lyrics, and everything, like it was just so freaking streetwise cool. Like, but he can bust out a fantasy lyric too. You know, really, you know, that's why I don't get like, listen, Steve Harris was more of a prog guy. I mean, I've seen in interviews where when people brought up the punk thing with him, he completely dismisses it. Like Steve did not want to be associated with punk for some reason. And I don't understand why, but the musically, man, there is punk elements in these. You can't say it, because when they were coming up, man, punk was big in England, man, and you can't say that a little bit of that seeped into their conscience. You were going to say something, Brendan?
I was going to say, I think that may have been part of the tension with him and Paul Di'Anno, because Paul Di'Anno had that punk approach and had that growl and that grit. You know, he wasn't a Dio-esque singer.
Nope.
And had he not been hammered and, doing drugs so much, they would have probably butted head over Steve's vision for the band and Paul's approach to singing, because Steve got what he wanted with Bruce's style of singing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I agree, man. I agree. I guess, it would have been, when I listen to, Number of the Beast, there's still kind of like that kind of left kind of carryover from that era. And there's elements of that in that album. I mean, like,
I could see Burr.
Like, Clive Burr, definitely. And I could see Paul like singing some of those songs, Gangland was like, could have been Paul all over that shit.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Prisoner.
Yeah, dude. So yeah, I could see that. So that was, like Joe said, it was a transitional album, you know what I mean? But yeah, you're right, Brendan, man. He wasn't long to be where Steve's vision was going, man, So I've read, Paul was, to me, I kind of associate him kind of like almost like Motorhead, Motorhead had that punkish, punks loved them, metal guys loved them, and I see Paul's kind of like the same way, man. Where like, I know a lot of punk guys when I was in fucking junior high, and but they loved those fucking first two Maiden albums, man. That was like, that's my favorite Maiden, dude. Like I didn't really like anything after that, so. It's almost like kind of like Maiden. Those first two albums was almost kind of like Motorhead. They straddled that fence, man, between punk and metal. So, But anyway, let's go on. So that was Phantom of the Opera was my pick. So that was a clean sweep. Track 5, Transylvania versus Innocent Exile. Brendan.
Well, look, here's my answer to this. If Maiden, I've always thought if Maiden didn't play Doctor by UFO to intro every live show, they should just blast Transylvania over the speakers to set the tone for the evening. So there is my answer.
Transylvania. All right, man. Go ahead. Joe?
Yeah, this is one that I've gone back and forth on quite a bit. Innocent Exile is another one of those, kind of like Another Life, kind of like another song that's coming up a little bit later. The deeper tracks from Killers that I'm just like, this is Iron Maiden. This is what I love about this band. This is why I come back to these albums. That being said, it's Transylvania. Like right from the beginning, it's it gets the crowd jumping, like you said, Brendan. They should just blast it before every song, before every single show, and I think it would get the crowd more into it than Doctor would, honestly, because again, I think I've talked about this on some shows before when I saw the second leg of the Legacy of the Beast tour. And they had started playing a couple of the Senjutsu songs, and they did Doctor and went right into, I think, the title track, and did 3 Senjutsu songs to start the show out. The crowd was dead. The crowd was like, "Oh yay, Iron Maiden's here! Woo, yeah, whoa, awesome!" And they really weren't into it. And I think it took them, after those 3 songs, they went into Revelations, and the crowd just blew up. Like that, the crowd immediately got into it. But I think that if you played something like Transylvania to open that show, which they play a little clip of it usually before Doctor, I think. But if they just played Transylvania and then went right into the show, I think the crowd would have been a lot more into it when they open up with 3 new songs that most people there probably didn't know and really weren't that into. And so I think that something like Transylvania is kind of like, there's a lot of that on these 2 albums, but it's like almost like an anthem for Iron Maiden, where it's just like, yes, this is Iron Maiden. Here it is. Here we are, Transylvania.
All right, man. 2 for Transylvania, Andy.
Yeah, I understand what Joe's saying, and about these deep tracks that scream at you, and he's so right. That's why I'm going with Innocent Exile on this one. Again, I wanted to also talk about Paul's vocals. We're talking about his punkish themes. Well, yeah, his Spitfire lyrics are so strong and so fast and so smart and so poignant, and that's what sticks out on Innocent Exile. It's a Paul Di'Anno performance on that one. So I'm going to stick with that one. I'm going to go with Innocent Exile on this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna make this one a tie, man. I'm going with Innocent Exile. And I love when Brandon like laughs with his head back. That's like a big thing on the Rocktail show. There's
it's
like
a drinking game. It's a drinking game for some of the people that watch. Yeah.
Yeah. Every time he laughs and brings his head back, you got to drink. Anyway, back to Innocent Exile. I love, now my favorite Maiden live release is actually Made in Japan, the EP. I love that live mini album, man. That's my favorite Maiden album. Him as a samurai, dude. Fucking, like with the sword. You know what I mean? Like, oh, dude, that cover is awesome of the live of Made in Japan, and I love the version of Innocent Exile on that album. Awesome. So and dude, his vocals on there, man, awesome, man. But I mean, listen, the Transylvania is a killer instrumental. I love that instrumental, dude. And then Innocent Exile starts off with a great bass intro. Steve would have. I mean, his bass playing on these first 2 albums, man, are just so fucking awesome, dude. Not that he didn't do awesome shit later on, but damn, he got to the point like he's like, I'm here, I'm up front, man. You know what I mean? So, like lead bass, man. You know what I mean? So, I'm gonna make it a tie with Innocent Exile. So now we're gonna go to number 6, Strange World versus Killers. Brendan, take it away.
This next song is the title track of our debut album. You said it, Killers. That is like, sometimes it's my favorite Maiden song, and not to keep going back to the live Rainbow show,
Yeah,
but like That's
That
a
radio
band.
show's awesome, man.
How do you get rid of that lead singer? He has to be such a colossal fuck up because this is yeah, right. This is so incredible. It's got the perfect, it's the snarl, it's the attitude, it's setting a scene, it's the ambiance, it's fucking dangerous. It like matches Eddie with the fucking axe on the cover of the record. Like it's Killers. Like I just it's right now I think it's my favorite Maiden song. So going for that.
All right. Killers, man. All right, man. Go ahead, Joe. And by the way, that Killers album cover, I have a back patch of that I've had for the longest time. And now that Paul's, there you go. I have a back patch for a denim jacket. Now that Paul's passed away, it's kicking me in the ass to actually get like a battle vest started and finally put that fucking thing on a jacket. So I'm going to be starting up a new battle vest. Actually, Brendan knows that I'm a Rush brother. He loves Rush just like I do. I have a great Rush jacket, but I gotta have a battle vest with all my other favorite like metal bands and all that shit. So, but the Killers is gonna be the main back patch, and then I'm gonna build around it. So I'm gonna be posting pictures of that work in progress. Anyway, Joe, go ahead.
A quick detour since you brought up Rush, and since we are streaming live on the Be Cool or Be Bad Podcast Out channel, I wanted to mention, especially to you, Al, that next Saturday, most likely, I'll be going to see a Rush tribute. There it is.
Look at that, man.
There it is.
Yeah.
That thing is awesome.
Amazing. Awesome. Yeah. But next Saturday, I'll be most likely going to see a Rush tribute band that features 2 of the members of Kix playing Rush songs.
Oh, is that the thing that Steve Whiteman was talking about?
No.
Oh, okay.
Steve Whiteman's releasing like a vocal lessons CD or something like that.
Oh, okay. All right. What members of Kix are doing it?
The bass player Mark, he is bass and vocals in the band, and then Bob Perry that filled in for Ronnie Youngkins on guitar.
Yeah.
He's the guitarist, and he actually plays an Alex Lifeson guitar that Alex Lifeson owned.
Oh wow.
And then I'm not sure who their drummer is, but I've seen videos and they're amazing. They play a bunch of deep cuts.
What's the name of them?
They're called Sundogs.
Oh,
is the name of the band. But they play locally around here. They're playing at this little record store down in Hagerstown, which is where Kix is from. But yeah, I'm hopefully going to see them next Saturday. They play a bunch of deep cuts and stuff. I think if I went on setlist.com, the last time they toured in like 2022, the way they opened their set was with Hemispheres, Cygnus.
Wow, what a way to open.
Wow.
That was the whole thing. Like that was, and they were doing like Xanadu. They were doing like.
Talk about being ambitious, man, right out of the gate. Don't warm up with a couple of
No, don't do like Tom Sawyer or something, or like no. Play Hemispheres.
Yeah.
Wow.
Shit,
so I'm excited to hopefully see them next weekend.
Well, I want a full report then, man.
I'll be the official correspondent in the field. But yeah, with this one, I mean, like Brendan said, it's no contest on this one. Strange World, good song, probably my least favorite on the first Maiden album. Killers is just it's Killers. It's it's an amazing song. Another probably of my I hate to say that probably all of my top 5 Maiden songs are on these 2 albums, but they probably are. And Killers is definitely one of them. And yeah, it's just an amazing song. This is one I always, whenever it comes on, like if I have my phone on shuffle or something and Killers comes on, I always crank it up.
Awesome. All right, Andy, what do you got, bro?
Yeah, just on a side note, my wife peeked her head in here and said, "So you opened up the souvenir bag and all you took were your albums and left everything else there?" So, yeah.
Hey, priorities.
Anyway, I'm gonna go with the title track, "Killers." Behind You. It's such a great song, man.
Oh God, yeah.
It's a short song, but it feels so epic at the same time. You know how you get those songs that are short, but you're like, dude, that's just so damn good from beginning to end. So I'm going to go with Killers on that one as well.
I'm going to make it a clean sweep. Killers, man. Fuck, dude. Paul, man. dude, he's just snarling and fucking, dude, he sounds killer out here, man. Like, no pun intended. All pun intended, actually. So I'm going to make it a clean sweep, Killers. So we'll go to number 7, Sanctuary versus the Twilight Zone.
Well, I'm going to rub my Number of the Beast snow globe here. Let's see if I can turn that around for you guys.
It's awesome, dude.
I'm going to rub my Number of the Beast snow globe here, and I'm going to ask, because it's a kind of a tie between the two. We're going to go with, what are you saying, Snow Globe? Sanctuary.
That's fucking great, dude. All right, Sanctuary, man. Joe.
Okay, so this is yet another little sidebar. As I hold these two CDs up, these 2015 remasters, that's all you can buy now. These things piss me off to no end. Would you like to know why?
Because of the
neither song that we are currently talking about is on these CDs. But they were on the 1998 CDs.
Interesting. Oh.
So if you go to the store and buy an Iron Maiden CD today, not a single one of them has the song Sanctuary on it. Not a single one of them. And that was a single.
Yeah.
And you cannot, with the current remasters, buy that song.
Wow.
And same with the Twilight Zone. And I understand that they were both North American versions, but if you buy the 1998 remasters, they were on it. But for some reason, these 2015 remasters cut them.
Wow. I collected I collected the 1995 Sanctuary.
The two-disc one.
The two-disc ones, which are awesome. I love them because the second disc would collect all the B-sides and everything. Oh, wow. And on the Killers one, this second disc was made in Japan. It had made in Japan full on there.
And it had that epic, the Phantom of the Opera live version from the single. Yeah. Well, that's a good version.
That's a damn, I mean, for anybody, I mean, if you can seek out like the Sanctuary 95 2-disc version, which they're a little harder to find now, but if you find them, dude, those are the ones to get. You know what I mean? So
you will pay a hefty price.
Yeah, I got lucky with a lot of them, though, man. I if you're patient, you can usually grab one at a pretty cheap. So
I definitely want to find these first two with those double discs.
Yeah, if I ever find any extras, dude, I'll pick them up and I'll let you know. I'll
Please, that would be definitely, because I'm trying to find these two because these remasters just piss me off to no end. The fact that you cannot buy those two songs anywhere. If you buy the current versions on Amazon, if you go to Walmart, if you go anywhere.
Don't worry, they will release something with the song.
Oh, they will.
And all that shit. So
honestly, if they put out like because I'm pretty sure this doesn't have Total Eclipse on it.
No.
It none of the ones that have like extra songs are on any of these 2015 remasters, even though they were on previous remasters. It's very weird. Yeah. But with these two songs, these are two amazing songs. And another one that I went back and forth on, and it got a lot harder when we put Twilight Zone back in its correct place.
Yeah. Because
Sanctuary did originally win for me. Actually, no, it didn't. No, what am I talking about? It would go up against Prodigal Son. It did not. But I got to go with Twilight Zone. I mean, one of my favorite Paul Di'Anno vocal performances. Those in really kind of otherworldly kind of screams. It's just such a cool track.
Yeah,
and
great. Yeah,
it's a really short track. It's like 2.5 minutes, but it's really cool. The riffs are cool. Paul's vocals are just amazing on it. So I got to go with Twilight Zone.
Brendan, what was your pick again?
Sanctuary.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, Andy, go ahead, man.
Yeah, these two releases up here have both songs on them. They're on the Harvest label, these two albums.
Cool.
So these are the older ones. And also this special live EP has the Phantom of the Opera live on it as well. It's got that one, and it also has Drifter on it. It also has women in a uniform on it. So
women in uniform.
And the 1995 is the only way to get women in uniform because they iron that one's like specifically the band refuses to re-release that song.
Yeah, and I was looking at those CDs that I've been looking and buying, Joe, those live broadcasts, and it does have Made in Japan as
The full
second
one?
album on there, the full one, and it's like $30, and it's like 5 or 6 albums in there from
There
different.
is a copy of. If you get it, you have to let me know what the sound quality is. I've seen, I have like a digital download of like the full Made in Japan concert that sounds really good, but I'd love to have it on CD. So if it,
they need to release that, man, a full official.
I know. I can't believe that. I still, and what I really want them to do that they haven't done yet when they did these remasters, but they put it on vinyl. They didn't re-release Beast Over Hammersmith on CD. I really wish they would.
Yeah.
Because you can't get it anymore. It was only available in that Eddie's Archives box.
Yeah.
But they put it on that the 40th anniversary vinyl has Beast Over Hammersmith on Number of the Beast. Okay. But I wish they didn't put it out on CD. I wish they would, because I'd love to get that on CD.
Yeah.
I'll let you know what other shows are on there, because there's 5 different shows on there that range from 80 to 95.
Awesome.
So, I'll send out the names of those shows. I forgot. I was looking at it in the airport earlier today. On my pick here, I'm going to go with Twilight Zone on this one. I like that. I like the track. It's nice, short. It's nice, short. It's got a really good punch to it. A good old fashioned classic heavy metal track. So I'm going with Twilight Zone.
Man, as much as fuck, dude, this is hard for me. But because I love the Twilight Zone, and when I switched, when I made the mistake and I switched the tracks back, I'm like, shit, it's kind of tough here a bit. So
yeah, it made it harder for me.
But I'm going with Sanctuary, because I got a special kind of thing, because that was the first, the Sanctuary single EP thing was the first thing that I got, dude. From the Paul Di'Anno era, I didn't get a full album. I just got that single I had, which had the 4 songs on there, and Sanctuary was one of them, dude. And I love that track right off the bat when I first heard it. So it's got a little bit of a special place in my heart. So being one of the first Paul Di'Anno tracks I ever really, really heard. So I'm going to go Sanctuary on this one. So I think that was 2-2 on that one.
Yeah. It's another tie. We got a lot of ties.
Yeah. Number 8, man, we're going Charlotte the Harlot versus Prodigal Son. Brandon.
Okay, this is a weird way to answer this, but again, in 1981, my friend Chris Bull had an older brother, Jeff Bull. He was the one that would get everybody to Merlin's record shop in Albuquerque. And those two guys who were huge metal fans, and I went to so many shows in Albuquerque with them, they would always sing Charlotte the Harlot.
Yeah.
Because we were in 8th grade, I think that was singing about Charlotte the Harlot felt like fucking evil and crazy. And it's 1981. And it's the first time, you're like, oh shit, fucking prostitute. That's fucking ass. You know what I mean? So Charlotte the Harlot has always been seared into my memory.
Yeah.
So when they do 22 Acacia Avenue, it continues the story of Charlotte the Harlot. It's part of my Maiden history. I love both songs, but I'm picking Charlotte the Harlot because it's just a part of my fucking childhood.
Okay. That's awesome, man. All right, Joe.
Yeah, this one was hard for me because Charlotte the Harlot is an amazing track. It's another one that has the kind of punky influence. The chorus especially is that Spitfire Paul Di'Anno.
Yeah.
But still also has some really kind of in-depth instrumental sections. But I gotta go with Prodigal Son. I mean, this is the pinnacle of that deep cut thing that I was talking about. This is if you're gonna pull a deep cut off this album that is up here, it's Prodigal Son. And I love getting to hear live versions of this one, bootlegged. I think I heard one. They didn't play it very often, but I think I heard one version of it, and it was so cool to hear this song live. But it was it's one of my favorite songs on the album. Absolutely have to give it to Prodigal Son.
All right. Andy.
This one is another one I went back and forth on. And I'll tell you why I went with one over the other one. But Prodigal Son, you hear the blueprint of what we're going to hear later on in Maiden. the slow start up, and then the build up and the growing of everything, and it's just so great. But Charlotte the Harlot, what grabs me, it's part one to Arcadia Avenue. I mean, and then Arcadia Avenue continues the story. So, and I believe this one was written by solely by Dave Murray. You don't get that many Dave Murray penned tracks. So I'm going to go with Charlotte the Harlot. It pains me because Prodigal Son is one of those songs, just like Joe has been saying, that Killers has those deep tracks that makes this album amazing. It does. But I'm going to go with Charlotte the Harlot on this one.
Yeah, this was tough for me too, man, because I love Charlotte the Harlot, man. That punky, yeah, like that punkish, fucking Spitfire, Paul Diano delivery, man. That's such a trademark with him. But going over to Prodigal Son, it shows his vocal range as well, dude. Like the guy had it all, dude. I mean, for anybody to call Paul Diano one dimensional is just completely not missing the point. He's not, dude. I mean, he had the range. He could be operatic if he wanted to, dude. He had fucking all, dude. You know what I mean? It was just like Joe said earlier, man. He just had this streetwise kind of gritty delivery to it, But I mean, he could belt it out too, man. When he wanted to, shit, I mean, he had. I mean, if we really think about it, man, Bruce is a bit more on the operatic side. That's why people say, "Oh, well, Bruce has a naturally higher range," because it's kind of more operatic. But really, Paul kind of get up to those heights too, man. Just in a more grittier way, you know what I mean? But anyway,
honestly, I think Paul's highs are even a little bit cleaner than some of Bruce's.
Yeah,
like
man,
you hear him go for the scream on "Run to the Hills," where he's kind of straining to hit those higher notes on the scream. Where you listen to something like "Remember Tomorrow" or "Twilight Zone," Paul Diano is hitting these really high notes that are clean, and it honestly, I think he has a wider range than Bruce does. Bruce is just more known for it.
Yeah, exactly. More albums, and they got really big with him, So I think, like, the popularity thing comes into play here, like they became more bigger, when once Bruce came in. But they were on that upward trajectory already anyway. So anyway, but I'm going with Prodigal Son on this one. So it's going to be an even split on this one as well, But I love Prodigal Son. I love Charlotte the Harlot too, man. It's tough, man. Between these two albums, they're both fucking just so top to bottom solid albums. So
yeah, they are.
Track 9, man. Title track of the band and the album, Iron Maiden versus Purgatory. Brendan.
I have to say this. I only tolerate the song Iron Maiden because of the live performance and the ritual of doing it every single tour, and Big Eddie coming out and Eddie coming out and the whole thing. But it's the song has always been kind of a weird anomaly to me. Like structurally, it's different than so many Maiden songs. I love Purgatory, so I'm going to pick Purgatory in this instance.
Okay. Purgatory it is, man. Joe.
See, this is my what you guys were earlier with Running Free. This is I'm going to pick the obvious one. I got to go with Iron Maiden. It is like the battle flag. It is the ritual of Big Eddie coming out and Iron Maiden's going to get you and all of you. I mean, it's iconic. And yes, am I judging the studio version a bit by the ritual of the live version? Yes, but the studio version's amazing, and I do love it. Fits perfectly with Paul Diano's delivery, and as iconic as it is with even Bruce singing it live, this is a song that it's a Paul Diano song. It immediately in my mind, I see Paul Diano singing this song, and so I got to go with the first, the title track of the first album.
All right, man. Andy.
Yeah, you know what? When I was doing this, I was thinking of another show that we can do. Top 10 songs who has the band's name as the title of the song. So that leads me to picking Iron Maiden on this one. It's just a fantastic song. It kind of embroils everything that they stand for. And also, like y'all are saying that they close out the show with this. You know, it's the grand finale. And when you go see Maiden, it's an epic show. It's an epic show when you go see them, and more so now that they're doing this era just like they did back, you know, like the Somewhere in Time tours and this and that. So I'm going to go with Iron Maiden on this.
Yeah, man. I'm going to go Iron Maiden as well, man. I do love Purgatory though, Brendan. But yeah, Iron Maiden. It's just, you know, that end of the show. Yeah, and I'm thinking of the live show as well. You know, the Big Eddie comes out and he's kicking Bruce in the ass, and you know they're, you know, wielding their guitars at him and all sorts of shit, dude. It just kind of shows a humorous side to Maiden. But as far as the studio, yeah, it's a Paul Di'Anno song. I had this idea, man, and I wish it would have came to fruition. Like, you know, with Maiden, like in the twilight years of their career. I mean, let's face it, man. Like, who knows how much longer they're gonna go for? You know what I mean? I had this idea, man. Like, you know, do a double out, man. Do one disc with Bruce and another disc with, you know, fucking Paul, dude. It would have been great, man, to kind of cap off their career with like a final album like that, like a double-sided, like one side Bruce, the other side Paul. You know what I mean? Like, it would have been cool, man, if they would have bought, or at least, you know, bring Paul back, do like 2 or 3 songs on an album. You know, bring him in, you know, and, you know, sadly it's not going to be now, but, you know. But Paul was a warrior to the end, man. You know, the fucking guy toured. I mean, he was touring up until what, a month ago, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
You know, that was pretty much, you know, maybe a month ago, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. I don't know when his last show was. But, and the whole, and I had a chance to see him twice when I lived up in New Jersey. I was going to go see him at, he was playing at BB King's Blues Club in Manhattan. And it got canceled twice. The 2 times I was going to go see him because he was having visa problems getting into the country or something like that. You know, that was the story that was told. I don't know, maybe if it was a health thing or something, but and I'm bummed, man, because I never got to see him live, man. I was set to see him, you know, the first time it happened. Okay. And then like maybe like 2 years later, yeah, he's coming back. And then it fucking happened again. And I was like, you know, it was just like Kicks, Joe. It was one of those artists that I wanted to see so bad, just destined not to see him, man. So, yeah, man. But I'm going with Iron Maiden on here, man. So I think that was 3-1 on this one. And we're gonna go to the final tracks. This is gonna be a B-side. Again, it was a B-side for Running Free. Burning Ambition versus Drifter. We'll go Brendan.
I got to see Paul Di'Anno in Chicago in 1988, opening for Saxon.
Awesome.
Now that's a bill.
Yeah,
That's a hell of a bill.
At the world famous Cabaret Metro in Chicago, which is more of a punk rock sort of like indie rock kind of venue.
Yeah.
And I think he played Drifter at this. I mean, one of my most underrated Maiden songs of all time for me.
Was he billed
personally.
solo? Was he billed as a solo, or was it?
It was Battle Zone.
Yes, Battle Zone. Okay.
Welcome to the Battle Zone. Yeah. So anybody played a bunch of Maiden songs that night. Yeah, that was he was amazing. Yeah, got to see that. But yeah, I think Drifter is one of the most underrated Maiden songs of all time. That is my pick for this round.
All right, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, same here. I mean, Burning Ambition, it's a cool song, but it's definitely a B-side. You can tell that it kind of, it doesn't have that kind of like really standout quality that you would hear from the rest of the songs here that we're talking about. Drifter is an amazing way to close out Killers. Super underrated song in general, and it's what they closed their live set with a lot back in the day. They'd usually come out and play an encore or two. But what they closed their main set with, even in the early Bruce years, was Drifter. If you look at some of the early Bruce concerts, they still would play Drifter at the end of the set. And I think it's a great way to close out this album, and unfortunately to close out this era of the band.
Yeah.
I think it's opening up with Prowler, closing out with Drifter. That's a great bookend right there, honestly.
Yeah.
So I got to go with Drifter.
All right, man. Andy.
Yeah, I think that Drifter was the perfect closer to this album, and I'm gonna stick with that. I thought Drifter was a fantastic track. Like Joe was saying, this is the end of an era, but then it was the beginning of another era, another great era, because I like those Bruce albums as well, up to a point. But yeah, I'm going to go with Drifter.
And I'm going to close it out with a clean sweep. Drifter, man. Killer Steve Harris bass lines in this, man. Love his bass playing in this. Listening to, and I hadn't heard fucking Burning Ambition in a long time. And I was reading up on it. Actually, it's one of the first songs that Steve Harris actually wrote, like in 1977. One of the very first ones. So, and I could see, again, Joe said, I could see why it's a B-side. Yeah, it really wouldn't have fit into the context. It's a catchy tune, though, actually. It's pretty catchy. When I was listening to it again, I was like, it's a real catchy tune. But yeah, in the context of the albums, it wouldn't have worked, to be honest with you. It was wise for them to relegate it to a B-side. A good B-side, though. Great B-side, but a B-side nonetheless. So, but you can't fuck with Drifter, man. Not in this case. So Drifter it is, man. So that's how we ended off. I don't know, Andy, man. How you got these scores here or what?
I've got these scores, and wait till you hear these scores. Wait for this. Iron Maiden debut album got 3 points. Killers got 3 points. And there were 4 ties.
Wow. So it means it's a tie, right?
Very much.
So well, what's the full breakdown? Because I'm sure there's some, because like 3-1 or a sweep. What did you write down, like individual, like out of 40?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I did.
Which album won out of 40?
So break it down here.
Well, I was going to do a different kind of tiebreaker.
Okay.
I was going to go a tiebreaker being the better cover album cover, which we've already talked about that.
Yeah.
We've already picked Killers. So
yeah, I got to go Killers. Even though that first one kind of embodies that punk kind of Maiden, the way he looks on there with
the zombie mohawk.
Yeah, with the spiky, but damn, Killers with him wielding the axe, dude. It's just the punk hair, dude. There you go.
So
duel it out, man.
Yeah, only one of them's carrying an axe, though. So
yeah, but the other one's got spiky hair, so it could be used as a weapon.
That's true.
But Iron Maiden only had 1 sweep, which was Phantom of the Opera. Killers had 3 sweeps.
Okay.
Ides of March and Wrathchild, Killers, and Drifter. So those were the clean sweeps on there. So if we had to give it to someone, we would give it to Killers because they had the more sweeps.
There you go. So Killers comes out on top. But listen, both amazing albums.
Yeah,
Paul Diano, amazing on both the albums, man. Clive Burr, both of them rest in peace. They're jamming together in Valhalla somewhere, you know what I mean? So listen, it was a great battle, man. That just goes to show like how great these 2 albums were, because really, like, they were fucking pretty even, man. They were like neck and neck. So, but yeah, Killers for me, I as a whole, I was edged that album out a little more for me, for my personal taste. I know some people that love the first one, man. They love the grittier, more raw sound, of the first one. So you can't listen. Bottom line, you can't go wrong with either one of them. So
right.
All right. Well, that concludes the show. Anyway, we're gonna go. Brendan, man, what do you guys got going on tomorrow on Rock Tales? Anything picked out?
It's a secret thing. We are going to see ELO tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
So we had to pre-record Rock Tales. So, but we're doing it's not live, but it'll premiere at 5 p.m. as it usually does. I'll be in the chat for a while until we have to go to the show. But we're doing the 50th anniversary of Hotter Than Hell by Kiss.
Oh yeah,
because it came out 50 years ago this week.
That's my favorite Kiss studio album.
Which is crazy. And then we did a joint appearance with these guys who have a big Kiss podcast called the Shout It Out Loudcast.
Oh, yeah.
And they came on to talk about it. So, so that's what we got going on.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Enjoy ELO, dude.
Thank you. Yeah.
I saw them probably like 5 years ago or something. And they played Radio City Music Hall in New York City. And that's a venue tailor-made for a band like that. The sound is just fucking amazing, dude. The lights, everything, man. It was just, if nobody's seen ELO, man, go, because this is the last go round, I think, right?
Yeah.
Supposedly.
Yep.
You know? So yeah, go check them out if you've never seen them. You guys have fun tomorrow, man. You know. Joe, what do you got going on? Anything, man? You gonna be on any shows?
Not coming up, no. Not that I know of. I'm sure, I mean, I always get asked to be on BS or on you guys' show, and so I'm never long for not being on shows.
Yeah.
So I'm sure I'll be around somewhere. I'm seeing I got a couple shows coming up. I'm tossing around going to see well, like I said, I have the Rush tribute band next Saturday. The Monday after that is when King Diamond's coming here. I'm still tossing that around. I'm thinking about it. It's hard during the school day. I mean the school week, so I might, because it's like an hour and a half away from here.
Oh, okay.
So I might. Then a couple of weeks from now, I'm planning on going to see Stryper on the 40th anniversary tour. That set list looks amazing. I'm excited to see that. They're playing a lot of deep cuts on this. They're doing two sets. And they're kind of going chronologically through their career, and it looks like a really good show. So I'm excited to see that. It'll be my like 7th or 8th time seeing them. I got some good shows, and then at the end of next month, I got Trans-Siberian Orchestra coming to town. Just some good shows coming up.
Cool. Andy, what about you, man? What's up for next week? You got anything picked out yet? We're gonna do the Beatles thing. What we're gonna do?
Yeah, next week we are going to visit a episode that we were trying to do earlier this month, but then the hurricane hit Tampa over there, so we postponed it. So we're gonna be ranking the last tracks on all 12 Beatle albums.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
Those. And also my other podcast, 3 Shots Down, with Jerry Soupy and Kate Doré. If you are interested, we do a whole episode about Clive Burr.
Oh, cool!
That's a Clive Burr episode.
Cool.
About his beginning life, his life with Maiden, then his life after Maiden, and the different types of.
I believe he was in a band with Paul Di'Anno as well. Yeah. After that,
we talked about that.
Cool.
And he had some other little projects afterwards as well. We touched on all that. So it's about everything about Clive Burr that you can possibly want to know.
All right, cool.
We got that out there, and then Black Spinner Circle vidcast with Al Horta and myself will be ranking the last tracks of Beatle albums.
Okay. And all right, man. So Brendan, again, man, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure. It was awesome. Put the little word in Ahmet's ear. Maybe you can come on here one day or something too. We can do something fun with him. You know,
definitely. Yep, I will.
Please, please have me on.
If I do, yeah, all right. Anyway, enjoy ELO tomorrow, dude, and full report on that, man. When you get next show.
Oh yeah.
And for Black Spinner Circle, everybody have a great night. Cheers. See you next week.
Yeah, Brendan, it was very nice meeting you, man. You're a cool
You
dude.
too. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Take care.